What is up, sports fans? Primarily football fans that just had a banger of a New Year's weekend, at least I hope. So, first of all, Happy New Year. And boy, did we bring in the new year with an absolute bang. What a football weekend it was. Welcome to Football Talk with Hawk podcast. If you are listening on Spotify, thank you so much. If you are listening on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that like button. I deeply appreciate it. All right, where do we start? Should we start with Saturday? I know there's a lot of conversations that are starting and ending with Saturday, and by golly, that may be what we do on this recap of a wild Week 17. Now, for those of you who do not know, on Sunday I was at the Colts vs. Raider game, watching that fiasco take place in person. For those of you that have no clue what I'm talking about, no, there wasn't a real fiasco. I'm just calling what I saw on the field a fiasco. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But let's start with Saturday night. Let's start with Saturday night. As you guys know, I like the Lions. I really like the Lions. I picked the Lions to win. And as far as most people are concerned, the Lions did win the game. For those of you who have not heard yet, the officiating crew for that Lions game has been downgraded and barred from any playoff game ability. They will not be in the playoff game crew. Okay? Here's the problem. That's the admission that the call was wrong. Now, the NFL technically, Roger Goodell, has the ability to overturn the game. As some may point out, the Cowboys could argue that they would have had enough time to throw a Hail Mary, get a pass, get a pass interference, kick another field goal to win the game. Let's just be honest with this. Detroit had the balls to go for two 3 times. 3 times. The opening trick play, which we're going to talk about for a little bit. Yes, this game I will dissect for you the most probably out of this podcast. The trick play to open, then the offsides by Parsons, and then the third try, which ended up being incomplete because Goff short-armed it instead of giving Mitchell a legitimate shot at catching the ball. That was on Goff. Okay. The trick play. Now, I'm not taking credit for knowing all this by myself. Rex Ryan, I watched the NFL Live the next morning, explained even more of it. But part of this I knew. This goes back to what I was talking about last week when we were talking about the suspension. Jaire Alexander was suspended for the Packers, suspended 1 game because he honorarily made himself a captain without being a captain and went out in the middle of the field. And to clarify, because let's close this out, let's put this book to bed here. His response is why he's going to be cut. His response is why he's going to be cut. Because his response to, do you realize that you almost could have screwed up, was, I thought I don't think coach knew I was from Charlotte. I thought I was fitting that I was supposed to be out there. I don't care if it's your hometown. Do you realize how many players that are on your team, that was their hometown? You think the rest of them are going to be out there on the field? Why should you be that special? Coaches will purposely play somebody in front of their home crowd or in front of their family when they know the family's in attendance. Coaches will do that. It's called being a good coach. It's a coin toss. Lower your ego. You're going to be cut because you've been injured for the last 2 years. So his response is probably a bigger reason why he got suspended, because he doesn't realize how detrimental what he did could have been. So he's a bonehead. And future teams are kind of going to take notice. It's all about Jair. So close the book on that. There we go. So now, knowing what we learned last week with the coin, when I told you about the coin toss, these coaches tell everybody ahead. They tell everybody what's taking place. They tell everybody what's going on. They have a session with the referees before the game even starts in front of the whiteboard, where they go over every potential trick play that they will run, every formation that they could run, to make sure that they are aware that, yes, we could run this in the game. They may not run them. Most teams, as you know, don't. But they get put in front of a whiteboard. The entire thing is explained to the referees. If we go for 2, this is our play call. The refs actually knew the play call. They knew the play call. They knew the play call was fake toss, scat throw back to Tyler Decker in the end zone. Or Taylor Decker in the end zone. That was the play call. They knew what it was written up as. They knew it on the whiteboard. They knew that was the call. That's first of all. Second of all, they knew about the fake punt. The fake punt was also shown to them in the locker room before the game. And the fake punt went off without a hitch. So any premise that is trying to protect the refs in this situation is wrong. The refs failed. Now, you guys know I try not to bang too much on the refs. They're humans as well. This one is clear. And it was made even more clear after Rex Ryan explained everything. Here's what should have happened. There is no game clock in effect right now. There is only a play clock. That's first of all. And the play clock does not start until Mr. Allen, the head ref, signals the play clock to start. And truthfully, he's got as much time as he wants. He's the one that initiates this because it's for a 2-point try. As Rex Ryan said, and I am going to use what he said, he never had to move as fast as he moved. He could have taken as much time as he needed to make sure everything was set the way that he knew it was supposed to be done from the pre-game meeting. He didn't have to run up to the Dallas Cowboys defenders to inform them who was eligible. Because if you notice, there are 2 offensive linemen in the video standing in front of him while number 70, of which he said was becoming eligible, was running in from the sideline. So what the fault was is that he did not slow down and acknowledge the two people standing in front of him. Standing in front of him. That's the problem. That's the fault. How can a player report if the ref is running away from him? Answer me that. How can a player report when the ref is running away from him? Oh, that's right. You can't. And Rex Ryan said it beautifully. Stop blaming the players. Stop telling the players that they messed up, because none of them messed up. They all knew what it was. He's standing right in front of him. He didn't listen to the player that was talking and pay attention to the player, which was Decker. It is not Decker's fault, and it's not the player's fault to make sure you listen. Even though you're going to hear Mike Florio, John Perry, and all them say the players have to make sure. No, you got two ears, you got to use them. Your responsibility is to make sure that you listen for what is right. And I'm going to use the Colt game right in this instance. The Colts had the same thing happen. The Raiders used a big lineup, 6 offensive line lineup, multiple times. Number 68 for the Raiders was constantly reporting in as eligible. And I know it was an emphasis on the Sunday morning call to make sure that they got that right. And to the ref's credit, he was never running to the defensive line during the Colts game to tell the Colts defense. He was walking, he was controlled, he was constantly looking at the Raiders, making sure nothing else was going on, and then came up to them calmly, composedly, and saying, hey, whoever is reported is eligible. In the Detroit versus Dallas game, he's basically running over to Dallas to tell them who reported is eligible. Slow down. If he slows down and purposely pays attention to what's in front of him, that game ends the way it should, with Detroit winning, getting the number one, getting a chance at the number 1 seed still, but definitely having the grips on the 2nd seed. Now, off of Saturday, let's move into Sunday. So Sunday, Colts-Raider game. I had absolutely excellent tickets thanks to my buddy who actually works for the Colts organization. He was out of town for the new year, and it was my turn as he takes one of his friends every game. It was my turn. I chose the Raider game on purpose because of not having to work on Monday and whatnot. So, he ended up going out of town with his family. I got the tickets and was sitting there in the middle of all the season ticket holders. FYI, Shane Steichen does not have the support of the Indianapolis Colts community. The season ticket holders don't like him either. I was very happy to hear this. They don't like his analytics. They don't like his offense. They don't like all the fake. They don't like all... He's gotten lucky. And the best way I can describe it is this. For those of you that were watching the game, the Colts were up 23-13 after a field goal that had just been no good. And I was actually in the end zone next to those goalposts, by the way. The ball doinked and went towards me and my son, who were sitting on that side in that end zone seating. And I called the miss, which was good and bad. Then the offsides happened. Saved that from being no points to being 3 points. Let me tell you, I thought we were losing 23-13. I thought the score was flipped and the Raiders had the ball. because the place was dead. I'm not kidding you guys. The place was dead. I will say this. That doesn't happen with Peyton Manning. That doesn't happen with a lot of quarterbacks that we've had. That doesn't happen with a lot of coaches we've had. A lot of fans thought we were still going to lose the game. The Raiders scored that touchdown. And you could just feel a lot of people thinking we're going to blow it. The fan bases that are feeling this with their coach right now. Matt Eberflus, I'm sorry. He's had a great end of the year, yes. The schedule kind of eased up outside of Detroit. I will admit the home win over Detroit. I'll give you that one. You beat the Cardinals at home, okay. You beat the Falcons at home, okay. But reality is, the schedule really helped how the Bears season has ended. Just in a general sense, okay? So, with that being said, Eberflus, I don't think you want to have control for the future. I still don't. I still want to give it to him. Not at all. But that win over the Falcons really hurt the Falcons. The Falcons didn't look good. Taylor Heinicke got injured. They don't want to start Desmond Ridder. Their season's on the line, and Arthur Smith so badly doesn't want to start Desmond Ridder against the Saints that he's willing to start an injured Taylor Heinicke with the potential of a division on the line. Now, why is the division on the line? Well, that's because the Saints went into Tampa Bay. Baker Mayfield gets banged up in the ribs, and Tampa Bay loses handily. Now, this is kind of going to be rapid fire. Remember the fastest 3 minutes in football? Well, we're going to kind of create that here. So going down the list. So Falcons at Bears. Bears absolutely controlled that game. There was never any shot for the Falcons to really be able to win. They came out early, got on top of them, stayed on top of them. They beat them up. The Buccaneers and Saints, the same thing. The Saints jump out early, shutting out the Bucs for a lot of that game. A lot of that game. And the Saints absolutely controlled the entire game. They get the win, which keeps the Falcons and the Saints both within the ability to win the division, but they need help. Who do they need help with? Well, that would be the Carolina Panthers, who just got shut out by a Trevor Lawrence-less Jaguars team whose defense did an absolutely beautiful job all game. And now a Panthers team that just got embarrassed is going to have a rough week of practice. They got shut out. They're coming home against a division opponent with a banged-up Baker Mayfield, but it's in Carolina. That's next week. What else do we have? We have the Colts and Raiders. We already went over that. The game was really close. The game was a lot closer than really looked the whole game. The Raiders never felt out of it, and the Colts never felt like they were safe from losing. There live, the stadium did not feel great. The stadium just feels, it feels heavy, which sets up a Saturday night showdown, winning in because the Texans, Stroud comes back. They had the big lead early. They kind of went conservative in the second half. They handily beat the Titans. Will Levis gets injured again because his offensive line just absolutely stinks. And they got to fix that in the offseason. I don't know if they will or not because I am starting to lean towards Mike Vrabel getting traded to the Patriots for draft picks. Really am. Kind of makes sense right now. Tennessee could get a fresh start. Rookie quarterback. I don't know. They love him. It's not that they don't love him. But Derrick Henry's leaving. You could get away from Jeffrey Simmons. Bring in the new regime. Will Levis and the young receivers are kind of clicking here. I think an offensive coach would do them really well. And I could see them maybe being like, all right, let's see what happens. This set us up. We got to the playoffs. We even beat Brady in the playoffs. But it's not enough. Tannehill is out. Simmons is traded. Henry, they let walk. I could see them making a regime move. But nonetheless, back. So the Texans win. And the Texans and Colts now play in a winner gets in Saturday night football game on ABC and ESPN in Lucas Oil Stadium. Hopefully the place is electric. I am afraid of Houston jumping out early because honestly, I think that could be the worst thing there is. If I'm Houston, I'm taking the ball because you want to jump on the Colts early. Jump on them early, stay on the gas, beat them early. If I'm the Colts, I'm once again taking the ball. You got to keep yourself in the game. Got to. All right, let's continue on. So then we have the Giants and the Rams. The Rams, they look like the better team all day. Once again, even being a West Coast team, they go into New York. They beat New York. They play good. Kyron Williams runs. Stafford throws. Nakua catches. The team's fantastic. Gotta love them. There we go. All right, on to the next one. So then we look at the Cardinals versus the Eagles. This game looked like it was all Philadelphia. We're sitting there, and the show at halftime puts the 26-9 or whatever the score was at half up there. Like Philly's gonna win. Okay, we kind of expected this. I didn't expect a blowout, but kind of expected. Okay, figured they were going to win at home, a little bit closer than the experts thought, but nonetheless. Then to come to find out, Arizona climbs all the way back into this game and then scores a touchdown to take the lead. Sorry for the voice crack there, but the entire stadium was more shocked at that while we were watching our own game. Like, are you kidding me? So Arizona pulls the upset that a lot of people in the NFC wanted, guarantees San Francisco the number one spot, guarantees that Dallas and Philly are now tied, guarantees that Detroit can still get the second seed, depending on what happens next week, because Washington, who just got beat by the 49ers. The 49ers controlled the game this past Sunday, doing exactly what they should do. Now the Commanders go into next week against the Cowboys at home, potentially Ron Rivera's final game. Would love nothing more than to pull a W out. That's what it would be. The Bills and Patriot game ended up being a lot closer. It's a division game. Remember, the Saints just busted out the Buccaneers, and the Panthers beat the Falcons. Division games, no matter what, can be tight. Buffalo weather, Buffalo win. Passing game wasn't really there, but you can't stop Josh Allen from winning on the ground. And he beat the Patriots on the ground. As simple as it gets. And now they go down to warm weather. They get to relax, be in the sun, stretch out, and play a Miami Dolphin team that got obliterated by the Baltimore Ravens. Yes, you like how I'm doing this? This isn't the fastest 3 minutes in football, but this is how I'm doing this recap. So the Ravens absolutely blow the Dolphins out of the water. Ha ha, pun intended. But nonetheless, the Ravens controlled everything. And the Ravens legitimately look like the best team in football, even if they lose to the Steelers. Steelers rivalry game, Steelers have a shot at the playoffs. And we're going to go over that in a second. Why is that? Well, Denver beats the Chargers with Jarrett Stidham, and Sean Payton comes out and says Stidham did a great job. Russell Wilson's done. Very little question about it. He's done. They're going to take the dead cap hit. I personally think they are going to start Stidham. I think Payton wants to address a couple of other things, take the dead cap hit for this year, and be able to build the team behind it, looking at what's going to happen in 2025. Could you imagine? Just think about this for a second. Just think about this. What if the Broncos got the number 1 or a number 2 pick next year? Just think about this. Now we're going to do a lot more conjecturing after this week. I understand that. But just think about this for a second. What if that's the case? And Shedeur Sanders goes to Denver next year with Sean Payton as his head coach. The Broncos become so formidable, it's not even funny. Shedeur will listen. Shedeur will not be Russell Wilson. His dad will tell him, you better listen to a Super Bowl winning head coach. That's what he'll say. Coached one of the statistic-wise best quarterbacks in the league. Now, I don't think Drew Brees is one of the best of all time. I've said this. I think he was good, just like Phillip Rivers was good, just like Eli Manning was good. I don't think Eli Manning was one of the best quarterbacks of all time either. I don't. Sorry. He had so many up and down years. He's not one of the best quarterbacks of all time. Drew Brees was definitely better. Now, the Broncos win. Back to the recap. The Broncos win. The Raiders lose. The Steelers then go into Seattle and manhandle the Seahawks, which leaves Green Bay completely in the playoff picture now. So that's interesting. Because of how all this plays out, boy, that gets interesting. And it gets interesting really quick. Because Seattle losing, Pittsburgh winning, Pittsburgh still has a very, very, very outside shot at making the playoffs. How, do you ask? Well, since Kansas City beat Cincinnati in a game where it looked like Kansas City was going to lose, Kansas City is not the same Kansas City team. You can beat them in Arrowhead. You can beat them when you're at home. I have no faith in that team, just like I have no faith in Philadelphia. No lie, no tricks, no lies, no nothing. Okay? Because of how everything played out on Sunday, if the Jaguars lose on the road to the Titans, and the Texans-Colts game just doesn't end in a tie, and the Broncos beat the Raiders on Sunday in Las Vegas. Now, this all has to happen. The Broncos are eliminated. Let me be clear. The Broncos are mathematically eliminated. The Steelers could lose and still get into the playoffs. If they win, it gives them a really easy path in. Or sorry, if they win, it makes it, the path is a little bit easier. but they lose the head-to-head against both the Texans and the Colts. That's the problem. The Jaguars losing is the first step. Now, I believe the Texans are going to win. I'm going with Stroud over Minshew. I'm going quarterback and quarterback alone. Rookie quarterback, rookie head coach, makes the playoffs together. They cannot count. Steichen is a rookie head coach. Minshew is not a rookie quarterback. If Anthony Richardson was playing, they would both be eligible for this statistic, but they're not. DeMeco Ryans and C.J. Stroud are the first rookie head coach, rookie quarterback to be able to make the playoffs since Andrew Luck and Chuck Pagano in 2012. DeMeco Ryans deserves a lot of credit, whether he gets into the playoffs or not. Period. Whether they get in or not. For Jacksonville, it's simple. Win, you're in. For Houston, it's simple. Win, you're in. For the Colts, it's simple. Win, you're in. 2 teams from the AFC South will be in if 2 of the 3 teams win. That's simple. That's simple. Now, let's go to Monday night. What happened Monday night? Sunday night. What happened on Sunday Night Football? All these other games end. Everything's calming down. And the Packers destroy the Vikings. Destroy them. Brian Flores doesn't have the secondary he wants to have to run a lot of what he wants to run. Okay. Your line got shredded. You couldn't move the ball against a defense that's looked absolutely, completely suspect. And Jordan Love looked really good until Jayden Reed went out. I think Jayden Reed is a very big catalyst, just like Davante Adams was for Rodgers. Jayden Reed and Jordan Love have a really good connection. But it's going to be based off of Reed's health. Reed has got to stay healthy. He is a very dynamic player. And you can tell he has a great rapport with him and the routes that they run. You can tell. It's very clear. Now, I'll say this. The Packers can win over the Bears. The Seahawks lose. And the Pack can still make the playoffs as the 6th seed because they own the head-to-head tiebreaker over the Rams. But the Rams have to lose to the 49ers, which should, this is where we're going to end today. Let's end on this debate. Resting your starters versus not resting your starters. Let's end it on this debate. It's different for each team. San Francisco and Baltimore automatically have 1 week off. Since they have 1 week off, I would only rest the players that are legitimately on the injury report. So, if you're the 49ers, and I'm Kyle Shanahan, and I'm not, but you know what? Let's pretend. I'm resting Christian McCaffrey, and I'm resting Trent Williams. Because if either one of those two get hurt in a rivalry game, because the Rams are going to come out swinging. The Rams are going to come out swinging. Because if they win, they guarantee they get the 6th seed. You don't want your guys hurt for the playoff push in a game that means nothing about the playoff push. But you want to play the guys that are healthy-ish or healthy to make sure they don't get rusty, or as Kyle Shanahan said on a call today, you don't want bad habits forming. When you practice as if you're not going to play, you do things you don't normally do. You don't want to get worse. So if I'm Kyle Shanahan, I fully agree. You practice the entire week as if you're starting everybody, and then Sunday morning comes and you go, actually, you're sitting and you're sitting and you're sitting. We need you for the playoff push. You're sitting this game. It's exactly what I do. It's exactly what I would do. If I'm Baltimore, I'm resting anybody that has anything wrong with their ankle. Because Pittsburgh's going to come out hitting because they want to win. You can have a chip on your shoulder. You can want whatever you want. The reality is, Pittsburgh's going to want to play this game harder than what you really do want to play this game. That's just the way it is. Pittsburgh's going to want to win. I would say let your defense dictate what happens. It's still Mason Rudolph. Let's not pretend here. Your defense has been the catalyst. Let it continue to be. Play a really good style of offense, ground and pound. Don't get a bunch of people, play this game, conserve aggressive. Let your defense dictate everything. Don't take a bunch of risk. Definitely rest the guys that have ankle injuries, that have nagging knee injuries. You need them. You need them to be able to make the Super Bowl run, as you're going to go after and then probably end up having to play the 49ers again. And remember, this time the 49ers are going to be coming for you because you embarrassed them. And they would like to get you back for that. So, just a reminder. But what do you do if you're another team that's locked in? What do you do if you're the Browns? The Browns have the 5th spot locked up. What are the Bengals going to do? They're out of playoff contention. Everybody's going to play. It's a it's a division game. But if you're the Browns, do you rest the guys? You don't get the week like the other ones do. You don't get that extra week. So, do you rest them? Now, I said all last week that if I'm the Jaguars, I'm giving Trevor Lawrence this week off because I need him against the Titans on the road, and I need him for the playoff push. They did that. It was just good enough. The game was a ugly game. But you know what? It was worth it. The defense showed up the way I said. They played really well. And I think it's going to be even better now to be able to go, we got to win without our star quarterback. Yes, it was against the Panthers, but guess what? You got to be able to win a game with your backup in this league. And they did that. So the Jaguars can't rest anybody because they need to win to ensure they get in, because we already played the scenario out where Pittsburgh can technically beat them out. So there's that. The Texans and Colts can't rest anybody because it's their playoff lives basically on the line. So they got to win and get in. The Bills and Dolphins can't rest anybody. Bradley Chubb's out for the year. I think that is huge. He is the absolute catalyst to creating pressure for that Dolphin defense. Vic Fangio's good. Bradley Chubb made his defense better. And the reality is I'm picking Buffalo even more now. Tua's a little banged up. Not bad from what I've heard. But he's banged up. I'm still taking Buffalo. Miami doesn't have an answer for what Buffalo can be. They're bigger. Remember the Colts versus Patriot games. Now, this is back. But remember the Colts versus Patriot games. The Colts versus Steelers. The Colts versus Ravens. Okay? Remember those games. What were they? Speed versus size. Forever, that was the thing. Speed versus size. The Colts could beat the Chiefs. They could beat the Broncos. They could beat, at the time, the Dolphins, the Bengals. They could beat all them. But when they played the Steelers, Ravens, Chargers, the Patriots, the teams that were big, they struggled. They're sound defensively. Rasul Douglas, that interception return for a touchdown, was absolutely gorgeous. It's why they traded for him. And honestly, with Waddle's ankle sprain being what it is, he's not 100%. Tyreek is not 100%. You saw that in the Raven game. And now they've got to win or else they drop to 6th. Which would be a road game against the Chiefs. So the Chiefs need to win on the road against the Chargers. By the way, no easy task on the road against the Chargers. The Bills found that out. Kansas City still can't catch the ball, so there's no guarantee with this. I'm picking Kansas City, but just saying there's potential. It's a rivalry. It's a division game. The reality is Buffalo has the head-to-head against Kansas City. Miami doesn't. So if Miami wins, Miami gets the 3rd seed against potentially, actually, I think that is Buffalo as well. That is Buffalo as well. Then if Buffalo wins, they get the 2nd seed. That will play the 7th seed. This is a lot of fun. This is football. The playoff seedings are more condensed now because, we started this 4 weeks ago. And we still had 5 weeks of the season left, conjecturing out what could happen. Now the number of teams is much smaller, but yet there is a lot of movement that can still take place. Saturday starts. Baltimore and Pittsburgh at 4:30 on a Saturday. The NFL is freaking genius. I called it. Actually, I called it. We were at a friend's house, and they got to see the side of me that my mother always absolutely loved and hated when I would call things out before they happened. I was only watching the Vikings-Packers game at this point because I wanted the schedule release because they were doing it live on Sunday Night Football. So, Sunday Night Football, Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth release that FYI, we are going to have Pittsburgh versus Baltimore, 4:30 Saturday, and Texans versus Colts, 8:15 Saturday night. And I'm not kidding you, 5 minutes before, during the previous drive, I said, you know what would make sense? Pittsburgh at Baltimore early, and then the Texans Colts on Saturday night. Winner gets in. And I got the look from our friend, love her to death. She's awesome to watch football with. But I got the same look from her that I used to get from my mother all the time, so I felt right at home. It was awesome. But guys, it makes sense. There's a full slate that we're going to be able to watch across the country. 2 games at the 1 p.m., 2 games at the 4:15, closing it with the nightcap of Sunday Night Football for the AFC East crown. The NFL did it right. They did their scheduling right. Give the scheduling crew credit when they can make up a week by themselves. They got it right. So I want to go down this. You know what? Let's go down this now because we can. We don't have as many podcasts this week. Might as well give you all the information that I can in one fell swoop. So we got the Saturday games, which we already said. They're standalone. They're getting you ready for the next 2 weeks of playoff football, which are going to be on Saturdays anyway. So no big deal there. But what they did on Sunday is genius. They're on 2 different networks. So if you're below the Mason-Dixon line, for an old school term, you're watching the Falcons and Panthers on CBS and the Buccaneers Saints on Fox. Everybody gets 4 games this week, guys. Everybody gets 4 games on Sunday, 1 on CBS, 1 on Fox, 1 on CBS, 1 on Fox, then Sunday Night Football. So in total, we have 7 games that we are able to watch this week. Between the 2 Saturdays, the 2 at each slot on Sunday, and then Sunday Night Football. Okay? They set up the potential NFC South crown all together. You're flipping back and forth. If you're a Saints fan, a Falcon fan, a Buck fan, you're flipping back and forth the entire game. Maximizing views for both networks. If you're above, you're probably watching Jacksonville versus Tennessee. Because if you're a Pittsburgh fan, you're wanting Jacksonville to lose. If you're a Colt or Texan fan, you're wanting Jacksonville to lose to win the division. It's a better seed. You get a home playoff game. More fun. Reality. But then we're also watching Minnesota versus Detroit. Detroit wins. They keep themselves in the running for the 2nd seed. Now, I think Minnesota's mailed it in, but nonetheless. Then we also have Cincinnati against Cleveland. And for whatever reason, I am spacing what the other game is. But nonetheless, okay. So that's the 1 o'clock. Oh, the Jets-Patriots is the other one. Jets and Patriots, which is on Fox and not CBS. So that's kind of weird, but nonetheless. Then you get the 4:15, which has more than normal as well. It's got Denver at Las Vegas, Kansas City at the Chargers. It's got Seattle at Arizona. It's got the Rams at San Francisco. It's got the Cowboys at the Commanders and the Eagles at the Giants. All the games play off of each other. The Packers are home against the Bears. It matters. It really matters. I think the Cardinals beat the Seahawks this weekend. At home, I think they do. There's potential that Gannon doesn't get fired. I'd still fire him. I don't think the team's actually been that great. I think if he's the defensive guy, I mean, shoot, you're still giving up points. Let's just be honest. Philadelphia's defense has been absolutely dreadful. But nonetheless, all that aside, the games were set up well. We've got something for the East Coast, West Coast, North, South. It's perfect. They did it right. So when somebody does something right, give them credit. And the NFL scheduling team, you get an A++ for setting up meaningful games in each window for this weekend. Playoffs are from Saturday all the way to Sunday night, and it's excellent. It's excellent. All right, guys. Longer podcast. Thank you so much for listening. What a wild weekend it was. We're going to talk about some of the future of the teams as I was doing some research about cap space, player salaries, and some contracts. We're going to have some of that stuff upcoming. So lots of stuff in the coming days. We're heading into that final week. Coaches are going to get fired. The draft stuff. We're going to get into some of the quarterback talk from a epic day. We'll talk tomorrow night or tomorrow about some of the college football games. Michigan, Alabama in the Rose Bowl. What a game. And then Texas at Washington. Oh, my word. Beautiful games. But that'll be in the next one. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you had a happy and safe New Year. And from me to you, the best wishes for 2024. Until the next one, guys, this is Football Talk with Hawk. I'm Hawk, and I'm out.